Welcome everyone to this amazing summit where we are gathering together in sacred circle to reclaim and celebrate the power of the elder wise women that we are. We are creating a sacred container here where we are really sharing deep wisdom and we're celebrating it. And today I am so excited to welcome to the table, welcome to the circle, Katherine Skaggs. Now, Catherine's bio is underneath here, but I will introduce her very briefly to you. She is a multi-award-winning author of the most amazing book, must tell you that, so you're going to see it. She's also, her pictures are on the front of the summit, so you've probably already seen those. She is as well an intuitive, she's a visionary artist, she's a spiritual teacher and a shamanic practitioner. And she's just, really active out there in the world doing her amazing stuff that she does. And we are so excited because today we're talking about creativity and the Crone. So hello and welcome, Katherine.
Hi, Alison. Hello, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you and be part of this.
Yeah. And creativity and the Crone. I'm so excited to explore where this is going to go, because I was feeling into it earlier and I was thinking, well, possibly or possibly not, but I was thinking probably, a lot of things that go on when we reach this older period or elder period and we're thinking about creativity. Maybe we've gone in the direction where we're thinking, okay, I was never any good at any form of creativity, so I'm too old now. And the other side is maybe I'm going to explore it now, maybe I've got time. And maybe I'm hoping that there's more variation in there as well. But I thought, it's not just so straightforward, is it? Creativity and Crone, like it all goes in one direction. So I wonder, if you could speak to that and the power and the wisdom that is available to us in creativity.
Oh, you know what? It's kind of interesting when we were talking, when you invited me to come into this, and you told me how many women you're aware of who don't think they're creative, especially once they start to get older. It kind of shocked me. I was not aware in the world that I'm aware of people who have issues with feeling they're creative, or maybe they had someone when they were little who said, oh, that's a terrible picture, and then they never tried to paint or draw again. But creativity is like the life force and potentiation of anything we want to do, create, or be. And as we go through life, I know we have a lot happen that we either get affirmed that we're creative or we get affirmed that we're not. And truthfully, part of what I've been exploring for a long time, beyond how I grew up as an artist, drawing and painting, and knowing from the very beginning that was one of my gifts or things that I was pretty good at. But as I've gotten deeper into my spiritual path, one of the things that I've realized and been taught through many different places is that we are innately creative. And many of the foundations from shamanism to my spiritual path and metaphysics has been that we're the dreamers or the creators of our lives. So every spark of imagination, people don't know they're constantly imagining their lives. Whether it be, oh, I just love to do this. I wonder what it'd be like to go back to school or to learn to paint or to garden or to go back, get a PhD at 70 years of age and not think a thing about it because it's fun or it's amazing. Or, oh my gosh, what's it going to be like to age and how terrible this is? That's all creativity. So that's a little of the wisdom I'd like to explore today. If that sounds like a good idea, if there's other areas, let's go for it.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful, because as you brought that into our conversation, I was just feeling into the thing that we're concerned about today in this summit, which is about reclaiming the Crone and reclaiming this power, this you know, who we are and who we've been pushed aside by the patriarchy into this corner. And I'm feeling quite a lot of that is to do with the fact that we do have this immense power and wisdom that is that creative force.
Well, and you know what, things that I wrote a little PDF to offer as one of the free gifts of this about creativity in the Crone. And in my book, I explore awakening the inner artist, the artist shaman. And it's all connected to this piece of energy, of life force. And, you know, we think of women, we are born to give birth. That's our nature. And when I think of the creation stories that I've gotten in touch with in many years later that include a more feminine take on creativity, it's like life force and birth, new life comes from the feminine principle. And it's within every one of us, whether we're male and female, but there is something that happens in our bodies when we stop bleeding, when we go into menopause. Literally, the life force that has been meant to seed this world physically and propagate as just on a very physical basis. You know, our desire to have family, our desire, and I don't have earthly children in this life, but I have given birth to spiritual children and to classes and all kinds of stuff. All this comes from my imagination and my dancing, my desires to have beauty in my life. And that's our essence. So when we hit menopause, that energy that has flown out of us through bleeding monthly and through eggs going out physically, shedding or creating babies, turns, and that Kundalini life force starts going upwards. And it starts feeding us in another way. And it's like we've always had that energy available to imagine what we want to do, to go, what do I really love? What do I want? And I tell a story in this little giveaway that I did about when I was in my 20s. I had graduated from college, I'd gotten a job, and I always went back to art school because I had a message growing up that said, you're a great artist, but what are you really going to do when you grow up? What are you really going to do to make money? What are you really going to? And so I was always the artist, but I did, and I had other interests, but you know, I was in a job trying to get closer to my art, not really my degree, which is kind of funny. And I just said to my boyfriend at the time, I said, you know, I wonder what it'd be like to go to art school for 1 year. And that's all I did. And what he said that's really important with this piece about engaging our creativity at any point in our lives, especially as we get older, is why not? Mm. And that curiosity was like, well, why not? And so the wheels began to turn. And before you know it, I had my art in a portfolio, which I was not confident about. I didn't have any idea if I was doing it right or anything, but I sent it off to a major art school and I got accepted at Kansas City Art Institute. Well, that was just the first part. But then I had to imagine moving several states away, telling my family, getting their disapproval, and doing it anyway. And so as we grow older, we actually have all these life experiences that have either supported us or built up blocks and fears. And actually, this energy I speak of, the Kundalini life force, is our healing energy, it's our creativity. And if that's blocked in us, one of the best ways for us as elders is to look at what have we created, even if it hasn't been fun. If we can embrace the idea that we somehow dreamt up our lives, limited or expanded, we can start getting the nuggets, and my dogs are dreaming up. Let me apologize and let this out. Oh no, my creative children. Another dream of mine is my furry people. Anyway, so part of the journey has been recognizing what I'm actually imagining. And, you know, and in reflection, as we get older, I've had some health problems the last couple of years. I've gone down these pathways of, oh no, what if? And it wasn't necessarily the most healing pathways, but it was part of the fear that we all must face as we grow and ask ourselves, are we imagining out of love? Are we imagining out of fear, and the things that we need to heal in ourselves so that we can be fulfilled at whatever age we are? Because that is actually it, you know, these paintings are my creative flow, but our lives are our biggest canvas.
Yes. As you've said a lot there, and I'm just curious about well, I want to just highlight one thing that really came to me about the you know, sometimes we think about creativity and we just think about the creativity as some sort of concept, and we think if we can get into our creativity, then things will just flow, and we think that with that flow things will be of immense ease. And yet I also got this strong recollection when you were talking about, you know, the actual premenopausal experience of having our monthly cycle and or giving birth, and how that's really messy, you know, and it doesn't always flow, you know, with great ease. It can be, you know, really tumultuous. And then you were talking about, you know, your moving to study art and the you know, that big upheaval and the disapproval of your family and having to navigate that. And it just really brought home to me that actually, you know, whatever form of creativity it that we engage in, it can very often be incredibly messy, and not go with that flow that we anticipate it will with great ease. So that was one thing that really came up for me as you were speaking. And another thing that really hit home was about the you know, and that as you were speaking about your own health issues that you've been through, and the imagining and the what if, and, you know, being pulled in what could be seen as a negative way sometimes, and then trying to get back on track to a more positive way, perhaps, of imagining. And I wondered, with that particular issue, do you feel that as we get older and we move into these Crone years, that it is more difficult for us to, because we've been through so much, is it more difficult for us to actually keep that creative spark in a sort of enlightened way, rather than, you know, rather than dwelling on the fact that, you know, well, we're nearing the end of our physical life, or we're likely to get ill, or all these kind of things that can come in as we get older. You know, what's your you know, response to all of that messiness of thought that I've just had?
You know, through life, I think we have many cycles and many challenges. You know, I've in the Pisces, Cancer rising, the little spiritual girl that I am, I recognize that part of my essence in this life is always wanted to be a cosmic cheerleader. Now, I didn't know that until I kind of reflect back. And when I was creating the Mythical Goddess Tarot with my friend Sage Holloway, who's in our, I don't know how many people know astrology, but Sage, who's passed, she was an Aquarius, and she was very practical, and she was a visionary, but she brought it to earth. So when I want to make a tarot deck, which is really a reflection of life's journey, the ups, the downs, the goods, the bads, the shadows and the light, I wanted to say, like, can't we make it all positive? And she's like, no, it's messy. And it's so funny as you're saying that, I remember my mom talking to me when I was a little girl. I had to paint out in the garage because I was a messy girl because of the art. And truthfully, the creative process is all of what you're speaking. And as we get older, what came to mind is that if we have had bumps, challenges, hardships that we've tucked away in a closet somewhere that we didn't want to look at, and we get older and we get to the end of life, if we're not fulfilled or if we haven't had the courage or the support and the vulnerability to feel like we can look at the things that have hardened us, it literally will harden our brain neural pathways and we will get in ruts and we will feel like we're not creative. We get a physiological response, we get an emotional response, we get an attitudinal belief system that can be hard, that can be, well, the world is hard and this happens to me. So we need to listen to our stories because we are the writer of the story of our lives. And it takes courage and it takes hope and it takes faith and it takes a discipline and it takes a community and it takes individually, you know, the teachings that resonate for me have been mystical, that have gotten me beyond dogma. And if I still find dogma in myself, then I know that I want to be more fluid and flexible, creative, because if we are the dreamers of our lives, we do have and the artisans of our lives, then we have the capacity to know that if we make a stroke on the canvas of our life, we don't like it. If we'll just take a breath and refocus, we can add another stroke of paint or we can burn the canvas. And we can do all kinds of things if we can understand that we can give ourselves permission. And I want to say that within that crone is the child. Within that crone is the womb of potentiation. Within that crone is the maiden. Within that crone is the mother. And all these parts of us are alive and accessible, but sometimes we fall into stories based on experiences and we aren't feeling our innocence anymore. We aren't feeling our purity anymore. We might have lost that childlike nature. And that's when we get like this. And we like, and it's like, what is new within the cycles of experience? And within my belief system, within my experience so far, part of what I've been reaching on is after some of the challenges and hardships, between COVID, I had a car accident, I had a brain injury, my creativity was not always like, how much better can it be? Because I was the cosmic cheerleader to encourage that. I was a little bit going down the other hole, the rabbit hole of like, oh no, this isn't any fun. I don't want to live like this. So it takes some tenacious kindness and love and compassion toward ourselves when we start meeting with the idea that we have a finite reality and timeline in these bodies. And that, in creativity, it goes like this. But the cycles go like this, and we have pinnacles, and then we start coming down on the other side of the mountain, but there's a valley, and then we have the opportunity to come back up again. And in the end of our lives, we are preparing for releasing our attachments to this world for another adventure, as far as I know. So
yeah,
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. So yes, because if we fall into the way that the patriarchy would love us to think about old age, especially as it affects women, is that saying of you come to your menopause and then literally still people say it's they say it's all downhill from now on, don't they? And it's like gravity is pulling at your body and everything's going to be just towards this final kind of crash out of life at whatever time that is. And in actual fact, we don't, of course we're challenging that and we're releasing that as a way to even look at our life. But I love that idea of bringing the creativity to could we end, on a pinnacle of creativity? Because even if we transform how we view the very end of our life into something that is, wow, that really engages our creativity, what impact does that have on the time between now and then?
And that's the right question to be asking, is to ask a question of like, how much more amazing can it be? And I mean, what if all these experiences had gold in them? All the ups and downs of life, all the celebrations, all the deaths, all the hardships, all the breakthroughs. What if that's the fabric of that pinnacle? What if that opens my heart more? What if that creates greater joy? And, during the time when I was going through those health challenges, as much as I've got a lot of practices in different ways, I wrote a book when I had a brain injury. And I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she said, I was always amazed how you couldn't put 2 cents. I'm sorry, this is like so important and emotional. It's like you couldn't put 2 sentences together and you could sit down and paint, and you wrote that book. And the truth is, I turned 64 this year, and my book's gotten 10 awards, including international awards. And I'm like, my destiny has not just happened to me. I've participated in every day doing my best to make it through something difficult. But the curiosity that was part of the healing was realizing I was being tempered. There were things that my soul agreements in this life wanted to transcend or transform. And I think that's true for all of us, that we have challenges, but we also have gifts. And when we can be grateful and look for our blessings, then the gold starts to come out of the difficult experiences. I mean, I sat at an awards table in June, and I got 5 awards. I knew I was up for 5 awards. I forgot that there was these other bigger awards. I didn't have any thought, desire, anything that I was going to get Book of the Year, Industry Choice Book of the Year. And then we're sitting there, and I got called up on the stage for these 2 other big awards that I had no clue I was even going to be considered for. And it was in my imagination. And I leaned over to one of my friends. I said, people have no idea what I went through to get here. And I think that's true of every person. There's that dog again. Oh my God.
Go and let him out or whatever he needs.
I apologize. She wants to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
This doesn't usually happen. Sorry. Anyway, people have no idea what's going on with other people. And, I find the foundations of creativity that can get things to flow are doing our best to be present, not living in the past or the future. Now, that's a job in and of itself. But when we have challenges or when we have breakthroughs, it's like, well, I wonder, that wonderment, that curiosity is a foundation, and that imagination are foundations of anything we want to create or want to change. So that it's what metaphysicians and shamans and wise ones from around the world, mystics, have spoken to for eons. It's been very interesting to me. Is how do we create the fabric of our reality? Started out with probably things like, money when I was younger, and having a better life, being happier. But quantum physicists have proven that it's that curiosity that the universe must answer. The quantum field, let's take it out of those spiritual terms, the quantum field will answer any curiosity that we have. So if we say, what's it like to have a summit? And then all these people start popping into your awareness. And then you start asking questions, and all of a sudden there it's coming together and things happen. Or what's it like to go to art school? I didn't say I'm going to art school. I began to be curious about having the experience of it. And the same thing is not only more amazing as we get older, there's power in this to be had of what's it like if we speak up as women to honor our years of experience that becomes a creative force for change. That because we are gathering, we are inspiring younger women, middle-aged women, older women, that they're valuable, that their lives are valuable, and that perhaps whatever amount of life is left to live in this lifetime, is that what if it really became more loving? What if it became more joyful? What if it came, whether I touch a canvas or I dance or I sing or I do yoga or I have good friends, there's creative fabric in every bit of that.
That is just so powerful. How you express that has just encapsulated exactly, what this summit is about, but also it's injected into it a really huge, massive, like, dose of real hope, that so that we can start right now, and like you said, not in the future and not in the past, but right now, really asking that curiosity question, that what would it be like if. I think that is just incredible. It just opens the energy right out, and opens the receptivity right out, so that we kind of stop presupposing and closing things down. There's this great possibility that is in front of us, and it doesn't take us having to think about, as I said earlier, is this a negative thought or is it a positive thought, because it should be positive, and we know where that goes, and it's not helpful to be in that state. This is so much better.
When it's like, what inspires us? I want to tell a quick story. I don't know how much time we've got left, but um, I was thinking, I'm 64, and over since it's 2022, and I got guidance to do something called soul portraits back when I was in my 30s, and it scared the bejesus. I would say that it's like it scared me deeply, that I was going to be the intuitive sitting there. The artwork I knew would come through just amazingly, but I had to be present and speak to someone at a deep level, and that I didn't want to be in the hot seat. But many years later, I took 5 years and I didn't paint at all, and which is kind of wild. But then I started painting again back in 2003. It's almost been 20 years after a 5-year segue. And you know what happened? The art began to flood out of me. Goddesses began to flood out of me. Divine beings began to flood through me. Mother Mary came through to me in visions for 3 days, and then she woke me up in the middle of the night to get up. Something opened in me after I was blocked. And what happened, I want to honor Shiloh Sophia, who you may know, and a lot of people know her. She does intentional creativity, amazing artist. I met her, and she saw some old artwork, and she said, "Are you painting?" I said, "No, I haven't been able to make myself do it. It's been really hard for the last 5 years. I've been blocked." She did a 5-minute meditation with me, went to a spare bedroom. I always had a studio, even if I wasn't doing any artwork. She got out some paint. She handed me a brush. She said, "Paint." And it started flooding out. And she said, "You're rather confident." I said, "I've been painting since forever. It's just, I stuck it away somewhere." But when it began to flow, so many things began to happen in my life that is part of the weaving of being here now. And over a couple of years, I ended up meeting a gal named, she's an elder at the time, 70 years old, Lydia Rule. I want to honor her. I don't know if you know her. She's not on the planet anymore, but I went to Rome with her to see Rome through the eyes of the goddess, pre-Christianity, pre-patriarchy.
Wow.
And some things I learned about her, she grew up in a very matriarchal family, very politically active, very powerful women who were encouraged to do anything. And she did. She became a scholar. She's a scholar, but an artisan. And she was teaching at a college here in Greeley, Colorado, back in the 60s. And there were no women in the art books.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, "Why not And with that, Lydia's adventure began when she was 60 herself, she began painting and creating goddess banners. And between age 60 and 80, when she passed, she painted over 300 banners that have hung around the world at goddess celebrations. And she was a force to be reckoned with. And I didn't think I could go on this tour because I thought I don't have time or money. And then I said, I have to go on this tour. I have to figure it out. And it changed my life because I said, yes, even though I don't know how I'm going to do this. And that's happened a lot in my life. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And that's the feminine principle in and of itself of like saying, yes, I'm going to engage and I'm going to open to that intuitive part of me that says, this is what my heart desires. And that's my GPS to activate the most creative principles of showing up and being receptive to the synchronicities and the magic. That's part of the creativity too, right? So our curiosity engages the quantum field, which is the magic of the invisible world that's here, conspiring with us to create our lives from our heart's desires, which is our soul connection to life. Anyway, as a result of going on this trip with her, I came home and I engaged with my friend Sage and I created the Mythical Goddess Tarot. That sent me on a whole nother adventure, and here we are. And I could talk on and tell stories, but I'm like, just say yes. And actually, that was, I'm gonna finish this up with what Lydia said at the end of our time on these conversations with goddesses in Rome, was we've heard his story, history. It's time to tell her story, her story. Just do it. And so with that, what might it be to get up in the morning and say, what if I'm the person I know I truly am inside, and I'm happy and I'm a good person and I do good things in the world because I live a life that is based on my heart's desires. And I say yes. What would that be like if you did that and I did that and everyone listening to that said, I'm going to say yes to what I know is my true heart's oomph. And that creativity will show the way.
Wow. I have just got complete chills absorbing that. Just wow. That is so powerful. So powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that story. A lot to absorb in that amazing wisdom that you're sharing with us. I just, very conscious of the time. So I want to give you an opportunity to really show your book because it's so brilliant.
So this is Artist Shaman Healer Sage. That's the main title. It's available on Amazon, which anyone worldwide should be able to get, but also through my website, katherineskaggs.com, and through my publisher, satyamapublishing.com. And it's a foundational guidebook. I began as a teaching guidebook from shamanism, but it really is a spiritual guidebook that encompasses awakening the creativity within us, ceremony and ritual practices that support us leading a creative life that's really life's a ceremony. What if we could be that amazing artisan every single day and awaken all of these parts of ourselves? We're in a revolution. Let's do it. Why not?
Yes. Fantastic. I want to share with everyone that I have got a copy of the book and it is amazing. And literally, I'm just poring over it again and again. It's full of imagery, it's beautiful, and it's got just amazing, stories and information and wisdom, and it's just a most beautiful and powerful book. So the link, I believe you've got you've got an offer for people, haven't you, today?
I've got a free download of a PDF called The Crone and Creativity, and it encapsulates much of what we're talking about today. I also have an offer for $5 off on my book, and that you can order. And I'll know that when someone puts in that coupon that you came from this summit, that I will personally sign the book to you or whomever you'd like me to sign it to, and make sure you get some loving and yummies from me directly if you would like.
Fantastic. Everyone, the links are below here. So I know you'll be charging to get a hold of those things now. Katherine, this has been just fantastic. It's been just so deliciously inviting, and makes me feel like I need to run off and sort of really connect with my true creativity that maybe I'm sure everyone here is feeling. Maybe they've been, you know, putting like wet blankets on their creativity to try to calm it down, and you're inviting us to throw those off and to say yes to it. And I love that so much. So thank you so much for coming and bringing your wisdom to this circle.
I'm deeply honored to be here and to be part of something greater, you know, that brings great love to all of us.
Yeah. And everyone today, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you can see how excited I am about what Katherine's been talking about, and I hope you're equally as excited. And yeah, you know, the links are below, so that's your opportunity. So I would just say thank you everyone again for joining us, and final farewell.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alison.